We had news at 8:30, yes. But the weekly candle is now fighting to where it needs to close, which has already been predetermined depending on if you believe the markets are algorithmic or not. Right? And right now, our weekly candle looks like this. Right? Now, our weekly target, if I had been swinging weekly options, for example, is this high. And I don't necessarily care how long it takes. But we failed underneath here. So you're seeing this failure concept all the time, on every time frame. We're going to trade lower until we fail underneath somewhere that was responsible for significant price movement. And then resume the trend upwards until we break something structural, right? Should we have closed underneath here, excuse me, then we'd be looking for a tap back in for lower prices. But we didn't. Why does that matter? It matters because this retracement up is to then look for a retracement lower because we failed, and then higher prices. And you'll notice we don't get these amazing sweep trades that often on the weeklies. But the concept's still the same, right? And similar with this daily, that doesn't really look like it wants to roll over now, does it? At least not yet. Which increases our confluence for this 538 high being taken. So let's trade safe today. You don't need to make back your week if you're having difficulty. You also don't need to end your week with an exclamation mark. This is just another day. Follow your trend in your system. Trade with failure. And we'll see if we can grab a nice long out of this movement. Yeah. As a side note on psychology, if you're finding one day a week, especially at the end of the week, is more challenging than others, that's a little bit of psychology as well. It could be mental fatigue, depending on your systems. But in my experience, and it's like I'm talking to a mirror, when things start really, really going well, that's when we need to be really on our guard. Because it's our light, right? It's our light that makes us fearful. It's our success that creates complacency. It's actually not the bad stuff that we think is the most detrimental, right? When trading starts going very, very poorly, most of us kick our ass in gear. We get going. But when it starts going really, really well, it works in reverse too. And that's where desire comes in. I've gotten the pleasure to know a lot of you guys, your personal struggles and everything with the market, and that's been a blessing. So thank you for sharing those of you guys that have. Right? We all trade for different reasons. Most of you guys want this very, very, very badly. And it's that extra little bit that you push through that all of a sudden, there you are. Yeah, I can definitely see that, HNS. I can definitely see that. Today is going to be very exciting for you. Morning, bro. Right. So this strong spike, you could also argue that we've got your movement back down to there. I'll leave that up, as it looks like we've found a little bit of a top coming in. Or at least indecision. Here comes our open. See if we get a spike or if that was the manipulation that we're waiting for. I'm obviously going to be sitting on my hands until I see something proper. Remember, your 1 minute's your trigger. Your bias is off the 15, and that's alignment with your higher time frame. $17th time? Man. Who wants to see NQ11 do a narrative video? You took that? Beautiful. Oh, a short. Established top, manipulation, dropping back into the prior range. Beautiful. Oh, that you're talking about the advanced series. Yeah, that was a video I was really excited about. This looks like it wants to trade into the prior zone. We'll see. Was it? Just so you guys are all aware, we've talked about the course, and now that my holidays and everything are done, there's going to be a structured course that's coming out in October that I've started work on. It's a nice little manipulation. Not quite at the midpoint. We might trade up, fail, and then come lower. Which I would like, honestly, because if we're starting to see this type price action, then okay, fine by me. Okay. This would be somewhere in between here would be where I'd be looking for long options. Still want to see if we get lower before I fire up the top step account. That's really cool, MQ11. Appreciate your kind words, obviously, man. You're too sweet for me. No, it's cool. I do appreciate it. You know, I like putting out content that helps you guys for sure. Man, it's nice hearing the good things as well as the criticism. Right? The idea is long-term growth of not only me as an educator, but of the server and everything we do too. It's interesting two-way price action. Still not convinced in the long side yet. That was a well-defended 1 minute candle, but this to me looks like a retracement to go lower. Right? So when you guys are looking, you're looking at what the current trend is. Right? Current trend right now is bearish. Break, trade back up. You've now got failure. So we're short. Right? And you expect that low to be taken in a bear trend. Now, if we sweep and fail, that's something else. Right? Depending on whereabouts you're expecting that area of interest to be. And we've got this ICT midpoint. I'm expecting a little bit lower still. But we'll see. 6 minutes in. No rush. And if you're looking for something conservative, you're waiting for a change in order flow that occurs ideally in somewhere that makes sense to you, right? For me, we've got our SNDR here that lines up perfectly with the OTE of this zone. I'll be looking for a scalp out of this.
Order submitted. Order canceled. Order submitted.
That was violent. Very violent. See if it trades back through. There we go. This is highly aggressive.
Order canceled.
Right? And should we trade through, we're likely looking at mid-30s here. This needs to continue because that was extremely violent area of interest.
Order submitted.
Taking one off here. Ideally, we get a trade into the prior zone. That would be 340. Right, that low was actually 339.25. So we tapped it, but this was violent. This was violent. Did anybody grab anything in here? Beautiful. Plus 10. Legends. Who's still riding? Who's still riding this? You're looking for the attempt to sell off that it's extremely weak. Right? Now, you've got this failure. So now this is important information. If we just trade to the open and we see this well defended, or if this candle couldn't even trade to the open, that's also important information, because now this move is a higher time frame or an intermediate time frame move. Excuse me. Right? So if this attempt to rally fails, my stop's underneath that candle at 25. Because we are still bearish and I need failure. And if it takes me out here, then there we go. So there goes my runner. Right? Now you could easily argue that this should just trade up to here and we take our 20 points on 2 contracts and we're done. Or 1 contract, or 5 micros, or 1 micro. I don't care what it is. Right? We'll see if we get lower prices or what it's going to do in here. Right? This was a very violent dump in. So if we're seeing some failure come in, like if we sweep below this candle and fail again, then this could run up. It will likely take this high at minimum. Right? So a little unclear. That closed under or inside of this one, but underneath this candle. This is a beautiful pocket. What we're trying to determine right now is if we're going for this low. If we get a change in order flow, that would be ideal. But it's just as equivalent that we just run from here. Or dump. Right? Which doesn't help our analysis at all, but what it does help is you guys should have a very specific method of getting involved. You might take an aggressive trade in here, maybe a sweep or something, and then you have a defined stop. Or you're waiting for something to tell you that this high is weak and we should go above it. Right? Some of you guys will look at these candles that could not close even inside the OTE area. Right? Now that didn't quite hit target yet, but in my opinion, this candle is weak and its high should be weak as well. There will be many opportunities today. Do not chase. Wait for the trades to come to you. And they will. That's your subconscious talking to you that it's seen this a million times before. Excuse me. This is going to be very violent one way or the other. I'm cautious of the Firefly, but we'll see. Still in a bearish trend. Couldn't break that high, but failing to go lower. Very unclear. Makes for a little bit of a range-bound PA, but violent up and violent down. Oh yeah, we got underneath 300, right? If we zoom out, we've got this zone that we're tapping into as we speak. right? Oops. Right, so we're dealing with the OT of the actual range here, which we're seeing a lot from. Right? And what we've got underneath is the midpoint of the prior zone, which is pretty much in line with this consolidation. And then we've got slightly underneath it the OT of it. Right? So I would expect when this pullback is done that our higher time frame would be gone. Now I like this low, but I don't like the delivery that's happening here so far. On either side, in fairness. But the ball is in the Bears' court. Took that high, strong sell-off. See what happens here.
Order submitted. Order submitted. Order canceled. Order submitted.
If this fails and comes down to here, excuse me, then we're looking at this low. Right now it's having the inability to sell off. They've got to shove it. That's better.
Order canceled.
Yep. I'm break even if it comes back up.
Order submitted.
And the reason for the short is that consolidation, failing to go higher, failing to go lower, yes. Right, we didn't quite mitigate here. We still haven't, in fairness. But I like the response that we were having on bullish PA in here. Wasn't the best entry, right? And I'm wrong if we trade underneath into an imbalance and we close strongly. So I took it off. And now I'm just going to wait. And hopefully we didn't miss the boat on the long side. We've now finally tapped into the midpoint of the prior zone. I just don't like this. So I find it preferable to wait for a little bit lower for a long or something a little bit more clear for a short. That's not to say this this isn't correct PA for your guys' model. Just for me, seeing this wasn't wild about it. I need to see something similar to this for me to get involved or interested short. And here we are. having all kinds of entertainment. But if it's unclear, then we stay out. Right up to our SNDR. This is our last line of defense, which also happens to be the origin. It's still sitting on my hands. Good shove. See if they can recover. Yes, last structural candle, but I'm not interested in taking that there until it breaks structure, and then perhaps. Now, obviously that would have been a beautiful scalp, but not interested in a bearish trend, even with order flow and a retracement move. Although I wish I would have held my long. That wasn't where I was expecting a swing trade to come from. Ooh. She gonna go? They gonna cut her loose? Obviously I don't like that high, but it's the location we wanted. Ish. But she's not going without a fight. If she is gonna go, my goodness. Internal, yes. I just want to see a little bit more of this push down, ideally into here if it's going to be defended. But obviously these long scalps out of this, or short scalps on proper entry management into it, fair enough. We're still bearish. But choose your targets wisely. You explain why I chose that SNDR zone before, not the red boxes. What chart are you on? 1 minute chart? I looked at this consolidation. You could argue that it's this one, but I looked at this movement down that traded into it. This one would have been probably a stronger zone. I just like this consolidation because it lined up with the OTE, right? But this zone obviously had this drop into it as well. And this is probably the proper SNDR for this. So nothing wrong with this area and then the sweep of this into it. Nothing wrong with that at all. Beautiful, Brock. You take it easy and have a good weekend, man. A little cautious on longs here. Be interesting to see what happens. I like this movement, yes. You've got from that low, this is probably your area of interest, right, that we're bouncing off of, but starting to see structure form on here, which might lead to this low. Let's see what happens at the turn of the hour. What I don't like is this sort of chop range that we've got. Very indecisive. Like, make a decision. And we finally get it. Nice sweep of these, trading back into the 20s. 28 seconds on that candle. What do we get? Oof.
Order submitted. Order canceled.
This low is what? 10.5? Ooh.
Order submitted. Order submitted.
Do we get it? Still no trigger. One minute till news. What do we get?
Order canceled.
Right, like that sweep inside of our area of interest. But she's got a blast here. Right? You got news in 30 seconds.
Order submitted.
Do I hold through? No. No, wait. We'll see. If it goes at a rocket ship, I'll just cry. Woof. It's going to go up or down. Called it. Let's see what we get here. My goodness. Orange folder. There's been a couple of orange folders that have been entertaining recently. Yeah, look at this nonsense. First top step payout. You're flying, man. Yeah, I mean, you had some solid analysis before you even came into here, and you've been lights out. It's been exciting to watch. Really challenging. Even still, we're still in this range, but I like that failure. And the important piece of information is that we're expecting this. We're still bearish despite all of this. We're expecting this to trade back down to retest this. Should we fail, that makes this high weak. Look familiar? Test down to the prior range. Should we fail and go? Now this isn't really what we expect to go. We'll see what the day brings. But after all this nuke, this is still just a pullback. And we're expecting to go. Look familiar? Every chart, every time frame. Right? We're still in a range. We didn't sweep this. Similarly, we didn't sweep it here. Right? It's a trade with trend. With trend, look for failure. With trend, look for failure. With trend, look for failure. Very likely we take this. We already had our trade away from it. This is where if you are even considering short, you don't look for this. Now that's not a protected high. Your protected high is here at 69. There it goes. Be interesting to see if we trade back into this area here, which will be fantastic for a long. Or if we just go. Now, those of you guys that recall from this morning, this drop in, what did we want to see on this drop in? Lethargic price movement. Lethargic price movement. Why? Because that leads to rejection. Whether that's in here or what I personally wanted a little bit lower. We don't get to tell the market what to do. Now, we broke above this high at 69 and we actually closed there. And our 15-minute tapped into an imbalance. So again, a little unclear. We'll see what it brings. But as it stands right now, we're looking at here. Sorry, we're looking at here at the midpoint, or 330, which lines up with this area, for failure. If we don't get failure, we don't get in. And that helps us avoid this, even if we're expecting to go long from here, which I was. I'm not willing to hold through this drawdown. I need a trigger. I don't know if you guys can see anything on my charts sometimes. Man. Trigger short? Yeah. I mean, pick your poison if you want to short after this movement. You could argue that you were in a range, you're expecting to trade lower. Should you get failure after breaking a protected high, you should trade back into the zone. Yes. Yes, absolutely. Right? The only caution I would have would be if you're suggesting this is a new trend up, right? And you're shorting on the first or second swing to go down, make sure that you're not letting that run too far. So you have, actually, yeah, you are right. You are right. I'm tripping. That's not our protected high at all, is it? I don't know why, for some reason, I thought that closed underneath there. My mistake. Nonsense. There's definitely, in my opinion, swings that occur in here. And it's important because that helps us identify trend and if we expect a move to be violent or not. I look at this as the attempt to reverse back into this prior zone. But you're right in terms of this not being a valid pullback, right? This certainly was. But this low is still one swing up, technically, on our 50-minute time frame. Which is actually doubly important because that makes this actually a very solid short opportunity. So sorry for that, guys. I don't know if I would have taken it regardless of the trigger, but just because of this movement off of this failure. But that's certainly a valued area to be looking for. And obviously that would have worked out quite nicely. So we still got this 1050 low, but we're seeing major defense come in here. Not convinced yet. We need to see body closures above these because we're still lower time frame moving down. Right? You would want to change your order flow, which would occur above 35 if, but even then that's pretty aggressive. Ugh. Yeah, I'm low-key pretty upset that I flubbed that. Right, you had your SNDR here in the middle of this range, which was confirmed. This is just liquidity inducement here. That's very frustrating. All the way up to the origin of that consolidation. Beautiful location to be looking for a 40, maybe even a 50 or 60 point banger here. Well, it's not, but cheers. So what we're seeing here is the inability to go lower, yes, but the absence of major price structure to go higher as well. We want to see something similar to this. Yes, we're failing to go lower. Right? So what happened here was we had our lower time frame shove. This was the area responsible. We liquidated it here, tapped back in to where? Right there, and then unloaded. Now this failed, so you could have expected potentially this high, and yet I would have expected to see a little bit more on the bullish side if we're going to do that. Right, like a body closure like up here or something, like strength, show of strength. Instead, all we're doing is just accumulating right above our low of day, which yields what? Bang. Right? So if you don't get what you see, it leads to the opposite. Right? There's that as well. We'll see what happens if we get down here. Obviously, caution. There's your midpoint. Whoop. Those buckets. Right? Very violent. Very, very violent. You want to see this imbalance not hold anything. Yeah, Algo's a good guy. His stuff, I think his stuff's pretty powerful. If you need or desire stuff on your chart, for sure. Yeah, no, I get it, man. That's cool. I'm here to see you guys profitable, right? He's not he's not teaching people that's stuff that's in direct conflict with, what we're talking about, right? He's just he's got indicators that help people. I actually don't know what the cost is, but I know a lot of people that use them are quite happy with them. Nice long H&S. People learn in 3 different ways. If you learn visually, and visual aids help you profitable, that's my goal. Hey Waldo, what's going on, buddy?
Order submitted.
Oof, that was a stuff. See if they can continue this or not.
Order canceled.
Yeah, this was a beautiful tap into the midpoint, but it tapped right back up into here and it saw a major failure. See what happens if we get a little bit lower.
Order submitted. Order submitted.
Or if she just lets go. If they're going to dump it, they're probably going to dump it pretty quick.
Order canceled.
And if this gains momentum, then oh man.
Order submitted.
Right, it's not what you want to see on bullish momentum. Yes, this candle is beautiful, but all it did was tap and mitigate this area. I'm expecting lower. Let's see what we got. She's chopping around. She tapped off the midpoint again. I'm not terribly interested in scalps. I need some sort of a swing type move out of this. Right, when she's ready to go, we'll know. Remember, you don't need to be early on this trade if it does pop into here and then give us an opportunity. Really? Exact lows. There we go. And
Order submitted. Order canceled.
if this fails here, we go underneath these equal lows. I don't like that there's equal lows. It's very annoying. This is what we're seeing on the 15-minute. You would have to trade through here for the 15-minute trigger. So we could see some manipulation here. This is exactly the area, well, not exactly, but it's pretty much the area that I wanted. A little bit lower would be ideal, but we'll see what happens on this push-up. Violent. Couldn't close above so far. Neither did I. Frustrating. Loved this. Not concerned about the body closure underneath it, but I wanted a trigger and I wanted it down here. I didn't get either. $19.75, $19.50, there it goes. Just looking at these inside highs here. Should be interesting. Even still, I'm a little cautious of longs, but we're delivering very nicely for it. The only reason I'm cautious is because of these equal lows, which shouldn't really determine so heavy of a bias, but in my experience, it's actually more profitable for me to respect them than otherwise. We'll see. Every day this week has had an 8 a.m. reversal, or sorry, 11 a.m. reversal. We'll see what we got here. Yeah, I really liked this. And these equal lows as well. Definitely don't have any sort of trigger here to go short, but this will be the area I'd be looking. And that's very aggressive considering this movement that just was just had. That's awesome, Waldo, by the way. Sorry, I was looking at PA. I missed that message. Ooh, another strong movement in. Second sweep for Tom. That high of what, 26s? We'll see if we sweep this one. Although that's, well, it's not protected obviously, but that was the one that really started this cascade. You could argue this one. This could very well be inducement. Looking at it now, right above our area. We've got right into this area, which is beautiful. We got our sweep. Not terribly wild about these 15-minute candles, obviously, but if we take this liquidity here that Mikey was talking about. Actually, a bunch of you guys have mentioned this as well. Be interesting to see what this Friday brings. Still sitting, watching, and waiting. Mainly because I haven't seen exactly what I want yet. I'm very picky. But when I get it, RTY. I haven't looked at the Russell in a while. What I'm watching to see is if we get a short setup in here. But that would be predicated for this, which is not the highest probability, but I'm just not liking how it's delivering here for a strong bullish push for the day. I'm expecting when this is done that we're gone. I haven't got that yet.
Order submitted.
Now let's see what we get. That was very well defended.
Order canceled.
No trigger, exactly what I was hoping for. Ideally, I would have wanted that bar to not be as violent. So still sitting on my hands. Annoying. but I'll wait. What do we get? Do we get it? These lows, 85s?
Order submitted. Order submitted. Order submitted.
Tap back in. Very aggressive trade. For continuation short, that is. And that would be predicated upon these lows being taken. And you want to see death. What do we get here? Oop. And playing with their food. You don't need to be early. We don't need to be early. Right? That could have been it, yes. But we need to make sure. If that means waiting for a little bit of confluence. It's a beautiful bullish move. Right? Are we entertained?
Order submitted. Order canceled.
You want follow through.
Order submitted. Order canceled.
Let's go. Let's go. First area of interest is this high. We'll see what we get out of this. We're not out of the woods yet, but that's exactly what I wanted to see.
Order submitted. Order submitted.
Yep. Love it.
Order canceled. Order submitted.
Let's go. Let's go. Probably pretty conservative, eh? Where's Mikey? Where's Mikey at? I know you're in. You probably have a better entry than me somehow, you schmuck. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. Ooh, options is gonna be fun, boys and girls. Sorry. I don't know if you guys missed the memo, but Mikey and I don't know how to trade, so just you'll have to forgive the violent move. See if it gets defended. What you want to see is the attempt to fail and just awful bear bars on a in a higher time frame movement up, right? But you're expecting, like, you got things like this, right? So sure, I'll take something like that. Love it. Right? We'll walk through this in a sec. I'm just kind of monitoring what this long's going to do from here. This is kind of your order block that really started this movement down, right? So I'm still like, never fall in love with an entry, no matter what it looks like, what it feels like. Never fall in love with it. You'll thank yourself later. Yeah, I know. Which is funny because all the ladies in here are absolutely deadly traders. Oof, that was a smack from that midpoint. Let's see what we get here. Do we recover? Mm, 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 338. I've actually adjusted it. I'm looking for this high now. But I'm very aggressively trailing up, obviously. Yeah, that's exactly where my stop is too. Exactly my stop. So while this does its thing, let's walk through the anatomy of what we're looking for here. Right? Because this looks great on paper, but the way I approach your guys' education and teaching is that behavior is far more important of an example than a lecture. Right? And what I mean by that is me getting involved. I can take these trades. I do take these trades. I took the exact same trade yesterday, actually. Right? But walking through how to be able to replicate that is where the value of this group comes in. So we had this. Is this really what we want to see out of a low? Not necessarily. No, it's not. We're having difficulty in here. Smart man would take it off, but I'm going to let the higher time frame do its thing. We'll see. Strong push up right above our area that we've been waiting for oh so patiently all day long. What's that called? We called it out in stream. Starts with an I, rhymes with inducement. Right? This is higher time frame participants getting involved before they run out everybody's stops. Ooh. Is he going to take it out by a tick before coming up? My stop's underneath this candle. No. Oh well. Look at it. Actually by a tick. That low was 10.25, which is where my stop was. That low is 10. By a tick. In reality, I probably should have had it below here, but yeah. Fess up. Who's in here that's doing it? Whatever. Anyways. So as we trade down to it, what do we see? You guys see this movement. I see patience. This is the difference between other furus, right? That you see everywhere, and us. Because they'll take a long, they'll get stopped. They'll take a long, they'll get stopped. They'll take a long, they'll get stopped. Not waiting for exactly what they want to see that's paid them consistently for how many years? Right? Which is a bit of a striking difference. Right? So what you're seeing here is accumulation. It's building an SNDR, make no mistake. And then what happens? It flushes everybody out, which is the goal of this high. And that's when the real move finally happens. And what do we get? We get our trigger. Now, there's two ways of trading this, right? There's the aggressive entry. You're waiting for a change in order flow, which would have occurred after this. You're now expecting the trade back in, which I did just take. Right? And now you're riding for at least this high because we haven't taken anything yet. Right? And this is how you trade. Have an amazing weekend, H&S. It's very well deserved. Congrats on your success this week. That's awesome to see. Does everybody understand why we're patient in here and why we're entering aggressively and then why we're looking for this retracement and whereabouts that retracement's coming into? I took it off. I took one off above here. I'm now break even at my entry at, what was it, 305? Right? I typically don't want to see that kind of failure. Now, this isn't a credible top just yet. You need to see some sort of continuation on the bearish side, right? Which is one of the reasons I hold these runners, even though we swept liquidity. Fair enough. Right? Now, should this high become weak and we continue with the bearish sell-off, that low goes. Fine. Right? But what's equally possible is that the reaction is garbage. We then can risk below here and that we're just continuing up. I see Bats in the house. I don't even want to know what his short and his long looks like today. But we all good. I feel like this morning's stream was fairly articulate, and hopefully it led to some strong decisions from you guys. Does anybody have any questions before we go? That just took me out break even, and we could expect that low to get taken. Why? Because we had failure above, and we had strong push continuing down. I certainly don't expect lower prices, but be cautious regardless. Wait for your setups and for failure. right? We're technically still bearish. We're technically still bearish. Difference between those three arrows, explain, please. Excuse me. So, the difference between them, not a lot. Not a lot. This one, right? The difference between this one is that we actually broke the prior bearish movement that came down. You can see the same thing with this one. Right? That's the biggest difference out of this one that ended up selling off further, which was the expectation. Because if we're going to fail here, where do we want to see? Using candle range theory, our targets, let's get rid of all this for a sec. Our target is this high. Right? Conservative target's the open of the candle, yes. Right? So we sweep underneath here, we target the high. Cool. We had a body closure above it here. We ended up getting a body closure above it here. Which leads to higher prices and continuation, which is more important because if our model isn't aggressive to get in, we're then looking for a trade back in, expecting strength because we're shown strength. We had failure underneath here, which traded back into this SNDR, and we found weakness. So we expect weakness. Does that answer your question? So it's not the candles themselves, it's the response that occurs and what they deliver us. This low delivered us a strong movement, so when it comes back down to that area of interest, we expect more strong movement. If we get an entry model. I'm not imploring that everybody has to take the same trade. Yes. Yes. In fact, I did. This one, I took it to the SNDR. This one, you guys saw me ride it up. Right? This one, I wasn't terribly convinced. I actually took a long and a short in here. I wasn't terribly happy with the retracement because I didn't get a clean setup out of it. My entry on the middle one was very aggressive, as you guys know, right? If you're expecting it to only trade at the SNDR, that doesn't make a lot of sense getting involved here, even though that's about 20 points, yes, in retrospect, right? What I'm looking at was this spike down, and then I want to see what goes on here. So what I ended up seeing, see if it shows us in the lower time frame. Right? You see this kind of whipsaw, trades back in, and then you're looking for that trade lower that is failing. This is more of an order flow trade, and quite honestly, it's not one that I would impress upon you guys to take. Right? Because the caution is, right, if you're taking it into an imbalance, yes, the imbalance didn't hold, but the SNDR did. Whereas here, do we have an objective higher if we're going to trade lower? Even with this candle closure, you've got your SNDR here. So should we fail lower, we've got a clear objective to trade up to. Right? Whereas this just traded to its objective, we would expect lower, and then if we get failure, now we can look for something, but the only objective then would be this high. Right? So I would impress upon leaving this one alone from a high probability setup. right? The only reason I took it is from order flow itself. Okay, I'm going to run the little one to school. Hopefully you guys are green today. If you want a little bit more in-depth questions regarding those, feel free to reach out, bro. I love talking about this stuff, as you guys know. But yeah, hopefully you guys ended up green today and this week, and we'll see you on Sunday for back testing. Reminder that there's a promo going from now until the end of October. And check out the announcements. Okay? Invite your friends for next Thursday. Let's pop this thing off. We'll have some fun. We'll talk soon.